Hello and welcome to USA 2024 on the road. It's Friday, which means you join our team here in America as we count down to the presidential election in just 11 days' time. I'm in a hotel room in Atlanta, Georgia. Like every Atlanta hotel, it's full of groups of guys in golf gear, refreshing after a day's play at Augusta. I'm not here to golf. We've been taking a look at election theft.
Slightly less excitingly, I am sitting at my dining room table in LA, which is also doubling up as our edit suite this week. We're working on a Kamala Harris film, very much focused on an election. I can't believe it's just 11 days away now.
I know, I can't believe it either. I'm back in HQ in Washington after a very fascinating week in Michigan. And we've had some really enlightening conversations there with the Arab American community.
I'm James Matthews.
I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm Martha Kelner.
Thanks very much for joining us, Sky's US correspondent. You're listening to USA 2024 on the road. Mark, as you said, you've been in Michigan this week, specifically the city of Hamtramck, spelled Hamtramck. How do you pronounce it?
I'm glad you're not the only one who can't pronounce it, because it took me a few days and lots of eye rolls from the locals there because I couldn't pronounce it. It's Hamtramck, and it's just outside Detroit, the largest city in Michigan. Michigan, of course, a key swing state. Trump won it by a whisker in 2016. He was the first Republican to win there since 1988, but then Biden won it back in 2020. Last week, we were there looking at the black vote. And we found that this isn't the only demographic that Kamala Harris should be worried about. We wanted to get under the skin of another demographic that the Democrats seem to be struggling with, Arab Americans. And, you know, really, these are the assignments I love. Time to get into a story, to have considered conversations, get under the skin of a place, as I say. So Michigan, James, has the highest concentration of Arab Americans in the United States. They live mostly in Wayne County, which is on the edge of Detroit, the Motor City. And it was the car industry, in fact, which brought so many Arab Americans to the United States generations ago. They were immigrants from the Middle East who came to live the American dream. And they joined America's blue-collar workers on Detroit's production lines. Now, our focus, as you said, was Hamtramck, which is the only Arab American majority city in the United States.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Mark from Sky News. How are you? Thank you for having us.
Now, I'd wanted to come here for some time, particularly to meet the mayor of Hamtramck, Amir Ghalib. He's a Democrat, but a couple of months ago, he endorsed Donald Trump.
All my life, I voted Democrat. But then things changed. It's a combination of two things, disappointment and hope. Disappointment at the current administration and hope that the new administration led by Trump will do something different that will help resolve some of the issues locally and internationally.
It kind of was in Congress, a Yemeni American who's worked his way up through society to become the mayor of the city. And that journey has taken him ultimately to Donald Trump. I asked him about comments Trump had made in the past about immigrants. I mean, Trump, many see as a xenophobe, as someone who is consistently degrading immigrants. He's called Yemenis terrorists.
I said in my endorsement that I don't agree on everything with him 100%. So there are some disagreements. This statement that was said about the Yemenis is one of them. And I protested, and he listened to me, and he appreciated it. Even to the point where he said, now every time I speak, I have to think about what Mayor Ghalib doesn't want to hear. Before, he didn't meet any Yemeni or any person to explain to him the situation. Maybe he was misinformed about some stuff. Now he's coming to Hamtramck to show respect and appreciation to the Yemeni community.
Do you worry that he's using you? That he knows he needs your votes because he knows he needs Michigan, and actually he doesn't really care about you and your community?
I don't know about the future, but I see that he's listening to me. Everything I ask for, he does it. I don't expect a major change in the strategic foreign policy of the United States, but we have a hope that he's going to do better.
But, you know, here was the interesting thing. He said that his community feels abandoned by the Democrats, and it was about so much more than Gaza. Gaza seems to have been the tipping point, but his draw to Trump was a consequence, I think, of a gradual leftward creep by the Democrats. It's about this particular community's socially conservative values. He said that the Democrats have been aggressively pushing their values on his community.
But there is so much aggression and attempts to enforce certain values on the majority of this community, on schools, on public properties, city hall buildings. That's what the community is not accepting. Yes, there is no perfect party. We don't agree 100% with either of them, but there are priorities for the community and they need a new ally.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Shukran. Thank you.
We spoke to so many people. We went to a school, the Frontier International Academy. Picture the place that you'd imagine in the movies. Red brick outside, rows of lockers inside, a hubbub of young students, yellow buses, the stars and stripes, the Pledge of Allegiance. It was all there, but here, almost entirely Arab American kids. We also caught up with Mr. Gus, as he's known, Hassam Shihab, Palestinian by birth, now proudly American. And he was one of those teachers we probably all remember having at least one in our school, really popular, loved among the kids. And we sat down with him in his office where his politics was clear, a big fat photograph of Donald Trump on his desk.
I'm a conservative. All Middle Eastern people are conservative. Christians and Muslims, we are conservative people. I'm into family, I'm into education, I'm into health, I'm into taking care of veterans, I'm taking care of law enforcement. Same ideas as Trump.
I'll turn the question round. Why do you think Kamala Harris and the Democrats seem to be hemorrhaging support among the Arab American community?
First thing, if you want to go locally, the prices are going up, gas prices are going up, food prices going up, electricity, water, everything's going up except salaries. Then we're looking at our money going overseas everywhere to buy weapons and kill other people.
And you honestly think Donald Trump will stop giving arms to Israel? He moved the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. I wonder how that fits with your history and your views.
Give me one president who did.
And so that was fascinating to me. I've lived in the Middle East, in Israel, spent a lot of time in the Palestinian territories, and the idea that a Palestinian would be supporting Donald Trump, who many believe has trampled on Palestinian hopes and Palestinian futures, it was, kind of penny drop moment for me.
And what does the Democratic Party have to say about this political drift away from it?
They're freaking out, to be honest. They're worried. They're very worried. We went to catch up with the chair of the Yemeni Democratic Caucus in Dearborn, which is another massive Arab American population, about 20 or so miles from Hamtramck.
Hi, how are you? Mahaba. Thank you very much.
My name is Abdul Hakim Ahmed Assad. I'm a member of the Democratic Party. I am the chair of the Yemeni American Democratic Caucus. If I am in the leadership of the Democratic Party, I would be concerned. And I could assure you that it's not just about Michigan. This is a nationwide phenomena, and it's not just the Yemeni American community. It's the Arab American community. It's the Muslim communities.
So can you understand why people are turning to Donald Trump, a protest vote?
There's obvious anger at this current administration. I don't want to say they're moving right, but I can tell you that the Democratic Party have done nothing to try to reach out to these communities.
Do you think that the Democratic Party has messed up this campaign?
Yes, I believe so.
Has it made you question whether you will vote for Kamala Harris?
Yes.
I do think there is the theme of the Democrats taking certain demographics for granted, the assumption that black voters or Hispanic voters, Arab Americans, would naturally be Democrats, but it's proving not to be the case. It's not that the majority of these particular demographics are turning away from the Democrats, but it only takes a moderate increase in those who choose Trump, and he'd win the state because the margins are so tight. And as we've said many times before, and we'll say again, Michigan is key on the road to the White House.
Great stuff, Mark. Thanks. The people you spoke to in Michigan, they were highlighting clearly some of the challenges the Harris campaign is facing. Martha, you have been in California, Kamala Harris's home state.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that I keep getting, and I'm sure you guys will get as well as you go from city to city crisscrossing the states, is who is Kamala Harris? It's quite incredible, really, that she's been vice president for 4 years, yet there is a real fundamental lack of understanding about who she is, what she stands for, and where she comes from. And that is the fundamental premise that we've been working on over the past few weeks in California. Who is Kamala Harris, really? So it's been interesting to really delve into a bit of her background and what makes Kamala Harris tick. We spoke to her former boyfriend, we spoke to childhood friends, to people who worked with her in the Attorney General office. So yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks.
I wonder how easy you found it penetrating the Kamala Harris bubble. I remember when we were at the Democratic National Convention and the Kamala Harris sorority sisters were there, all dressed in white, all on stage, smiling for a photo call. But it immediately became clear there wouldn't be any words from any of them, turned on their heel anytime I suggested having a chat about their sorority sister. All smiles for the camera, but not for the media. I just wonder how you found accessing that kind of protective bubble.
That doesn't surprise me that you had those difficulties. One thing that has become apparent is just how carefully controlled the narrative around Kamala Harris is. Certainly, the campaign have on lockdown those people who are closest to her. They're not allowing them to speak freely. They want Kamala Harris's story told very much on her terms.
And do you get the sense she's a likable character from the people you spoke to?
I certainly didn't find many people who had worked with her closely or who were very friendly with her who had much bad to say about Kamala Harris. She is not a woman who has gone around making enemies. The one exception to that is the San Francisco Police Union chief, a woman called Tracy McCray. She is furious with Kamala Harris, says that she will never forgive her for her handling of a high-profile case in San Francisco at the time when Kamala Harris was the district attorney, so the highest legal figure in the county. She described her as, a greasy pole climber who would do anything to get to the top. And Kamala Harris has widespread endorsements from unions, workers' unions across this country. The San Francisco Police Union, the place where she made her career, will not give her an endorsement.
Sounds fascinating, Martha. The mysterious candidate. When can we listen to the full piece?
Hopefully, if it's edited in time, you can listen to it and watch it next Tuesday.
Very much looking forward to it. Right, let's take a break. And when we're back, I'll be taking you on the road with me, or on a flight, certainly, a delayed one to Atlanta, Georgia.
Sorry for the little delay today. We had the airplane get in here late, but we are going to fly it like we stole it, try to get up as much time as we can.
We're going to fly it like we stole it, he said. They like a laugh. Stealing, actually, the notion of stealing the election is what's brought me to Georgia. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back to USA 2024 on the road.
Small, lightweight items may be placed in the seat pocket. If you need assistance, please let us know.
This week I flew to Atlanta, Georgia, to have a look at what happens when you have a candidate who fought to overturn the results of the last election, who's already claiming his opponents are cheating at this one, and whose supporters are challenging the process through the courts. I'm talking about Donald Trump, of course. There are more than 90 legal challenges to the election process across the United States, mostly by Republicans and Trump supporters.
Georgia's election board considered more changes to the state's electoral system on Monday after last week's decision to force the hand counting of every ballot cast on Election Day.
Changes to the voting process. In Georgia, these changes were supported just 6 weeks before the election by members of the Georgia State Election Board. Donald Trump's a fan of them.
I don't know if you've heard, but the Georgia State Election Board is in a very positive way. They're on fire. They're doing a great job. 3 members, Janice Johnson, Rick Jeffries, and Janelle King. 3 people are all pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory. They're fighting. Are they here? Where are they? Where are they? Where are they?
That's Donald Trump at a rally praising Janelle King. She's a Republican member of the Georgia State Election Board.
It's busy times, right? Every day is busy now.
That's Janelle King herself, of whom Donald Trump is a big fan. To critics of him and her, the proposed changes aren't about stopping voter fraud, which is extremely rare in the United States, but it's about securing the vote for Donald Trump. The changes have actually been rejected in court by a judge here in Atlanta, but what we're talking about is the hand counting of votes, the right to examine any election-related documentation prior to the certification of results. Opponents say, look, these documents could have involved anything, training manuals, poll watcher credentials. They're saying that these challenges are an effort to undermine faith in election results, their legitimacy, and to lay the ground for challenges post-election.
Hi, James Matthews. Nice to meet you, James. Janelle King.
Hi, Janelle. This is Sarah, my colleague. That's so fake, isn't it? That sounded really natural, though.
I know, I'm so used to it.
So I put these criticisms to Janelle when we met in the baking sun of Liberty Park in Atlanta, just underneath the golden dome of Georgia's Capitol State House.
I just think that there are people who feel that the way our elections are ran, the status quo, it should maintain and should remain. And then there are people like me who are not afraid to rock the boat if that means getting us into a position where people can trust our election.
A judge involved in one of your cases described your argument as illegal, unconstitutional, and invalid. Are the arguments designed to sow mistrust in the voting process?
I mean, I totally disagree with the judge's remarks, and the reason being is because I don't think that he understands the process. Many of the rules that we were putting in place, we were putting them in place to create uniformity, meaning that there are several counties and precincts that already do it.
Do you think there will be cheating in the 2024 election? Donald Trump says there will be.
I hope not. I hope not, but I'm not as confident when we have all of our rules ripped from underneath us and we're going back to the status quo.
If all these concerns around voter fraud seem too steeped in paranoia, I found myself in the company of one man who might beg to differ. We're in the echoey surrounds of the Georgia State Capitol building. A news conference is about to start. It's with Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State for Georgia. He's the man who famously took that call from Donald Trump after the last election. Donald Trump looking for votes.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. And
that's Donald Trump's call to Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State for Georgia. Trump was after the votes that would help him win the 2020 election. That's now wrapped up in his prosecution for election interference, currently on hold. He, of course, denies the charge.
Irish and Scottish, and a little bit of German there. So,
bad-tempered engineer.
I have not been to Scotland.
That's Georgia's very helpful press aide. He's like a Jack Black figure who bounces around. He says, yes, we could have a couple of minutes with the Secretary of State.
Oh, wow. No, James Matthews, Sky News. Nice to meet you. Okay. Tell me.
Brad Raffensperger was announcing at a news conference that 2 million people had already participated in early voting. That's a record in Georgia. With us, he talked Donald Trump as well. When Donald Trump talks about cheating at his forthcoming election, does that undermine confidence, voter confidence in the process?
Well, that's why we push back on it, because we're only one of 5 states that have photo ID for all forms of voting. So we've shored that up. We are checking citizenship. We shored that up because of open borders. People are concerned. So am I. I get that.
Are Donald Trump's comments helpful?
Well, doesn't faze me. I just can continue to put my head down and do my job. And I think if people want to find out what's really going on, just ask Brad.
For a final word, I wanted to speak to a lawyer who's been involved in resisting change to Georgia's election process. My colleague Kylan Burtz had set up the interview.
So this organization sort of kind of sued as soon as they saw that happen to sort of kind of stop that, to make sure the 2024 election wasn't affected at all.
Yeah, my name's Ezra Rosenberg. I'm director of the Voting Rights Project at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. We're at a place that I don't think anyone 10 years ago would have imagined us being. which is embroiled in litigation in state after state, in Georgia, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in North Carolina, all over the country.
I mean, is it being driven by Republicans?
Well,
Trump
there are a
supporters?
couple of suits brought by the Republican National Committee. There are other suits brought by individuals, other suits brought by other organizations. Whether or not they're associated with political parties, I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care. What I care about is making sure that people who are eligible to vote have the right to vote.
Tell me about that uncertainty, because there is the possibility, we know because we've seen it in the past, that the result will be questioned. How does that uncertainty feed into uncertainty around the result?
Well, it's interesting because it could be that some of these suits are being brought knowing that they're going to lose right now, and maybe they're setting up a post-election challenge of some sort. I have no idea. What bothers me more is there being any iota of uncertainty in the mind of eligible voters as to whether or not they're allowed to vote, and that just should not be permitted to happen. If it's a close election, there's probably more chance that there's going to be some challenges. Again, it may depend on who wins. The right thing for this democracy is to accept the votes as cast by the voters. And I'm hoping that happens here.
There we are. Election fraud claims there will be an attempt to steal the election. We'll see how that plays out in due course. Finally this week, let's talk about money, hard cash. Martha, I hear from my sources that you have a plan to win $1 million.
If only this was me winning $1 million and not voters in swing states. This is all about billionaire Elon Musk, who apparently has some cash going spare.
Every day from now until the election, we're giving out $1 million prize, and all you have to do is sign a petition in support of the Constitution. It's very straightforward.
And that, Martha, is the sound of the world's richest man handing out $1 million checks, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Over the past week, James, Elon Musk has awarded 2 people $1 million. It's hard to believe that this can be legal. And in fact, I think the Justice Department has now warned Elon Musk that it may be legally problematic what he's doing. And this is all part of his growing friendship, his closeness to Donald Trump. He, first of all, offered voters in swing states, if they register to vote and they intend to vote for Donald Trump, they get $47. That, of course, reflecting the fact that Donald Trump would be the 47th president of the United States. He's now doing almost a sweepstake to give $1 million to voters who sign a petition for his America PAC that supports the US Constitution. The catch to all this is that they also have to be registered voters in one of the 7 key swing states, those battleground states that are so important to both candidates. What's interesting is the wider questions that this raises about Elon Musk's vocal support of Donald Trump, because this is not just a billionaire who's donating money. Of course, we see that across the political aisle. Lots of billionaires pick and choose who they're going to support and give their money out accordingly. But Elon Musk can also give Donald Trump his algorithm. He is the owner, of course, of X, formerly Twitter. And I think that's where it becomes problematic, because you may notice that when Donald Trump is doing campaign rallies now, they often float to the top of your Twitter feed. And that is something Elon Musk offers that other billionaires don't. And, we've seen in the past, the big media barons, people like Rupert Murdoch, they have a big influence on elections, but perhaps not quite as much as Elon Musk has the ability to shift this election.
It does raise the question about what Musk's agenda is. Does he have an agenda to securing a Trump win? And, there's plenty of chatter here and jokes here about whether, in fact, it is the Trump-Musk ticket and not Trump-Vance. And also chatter about the tax breaks that maybe Musk could get if he was to secure a position in the White House. He could also be in a position to overhaul online regulation. It's stuff to think about for sure. I mean, he'd need Congress if they were to try and change legislation which could be in Musk's favour. And that, of course, is why winning the two houses in Congress is so key to this election too.
Mark, for all the talk about the big names and the big money behind Donald Trump, it's correct to say he's not the only one with a billionaire on his side, yeah?
Bill Gates, $50 million to the Harris campaign. Also, the Dallas Mavericks owner, Mark Cuban, he is acting as a surrogate to the campaign. They're not going as far as Musk, but certainly there is a lot of money flowing into this election. I mean, it is, from a British perspective, where elections are a little tamer, it is absolutely mind-boggling. Kamala Harris has brought in $906 million. That's 700 million pounds up to the end of September, according to Open Secrets, the organisation that looks into these things. Add to that another $359 million from outside groups. She has racked in $1.27 billion.
How do Trump's figures stack up against that?
Yeah, actually a little less, but only a little. His official campaign has brought in $367.1 million. That's about 40% less than Harris. But outside groups have given him another $572 million. So a total of about $940 million, according to Open Secrets. I mean, these are numbers that mean absolutely nothing to most of us, but they're whopping.
Never mind the politics, it's all about the hard cash. I wonder, Martha, what does $1 million buy you in LA these days? A bus fare home?
Coffee and a sandwich, maybe, if you go to the right spot. Certainly not a house.
Yeah, keep working on that. A busy few days behind us, a busy few days to come. Martha, what's in your diary?
I think a little more work on this Kamala Harris film before it goes out next week, and then keen to try and get on the road a little bit before we join the Kamala Harris election trail in earnest at the end of next week.
And Mark, what about you?
Well, I want to get out on the road again, if I can, to one or two more swing states. Nothing beats being out of the DC bubble and on the road. But we're also into rehearsals soon for our election night show. It's going to be a 12-hour marathon in the heart of it all here in Washington, DC, trying to make sense of this extraordinary time.
Well, me, I'm still in Atlanta. My last job here in this town is a Harris campaign rally. She's in the company of Barack Obama and no less than Bruce Springsteen. So we'll see how that goes. It would be something to grab a word with the boss somehow. We'll see. It is fair to say, though, that rock stars do watch Sky News. I remember when I was in Edinburgh once doing Hogmanay, UB40. I was a big fan of UB40, still am. They were doing a sound check. And at the end of the number, the guy who was on the trombone at the backstage, he came to the front of the stage, peered out, pointed at me and said, "James, you all right, mate?" So maybe Springsteen is a Sky watcher.
From one rock star to another, James.
Which begs the question, tell me about the rock stars you've come across.
No, I once went to a party at Ronnie Wood's house in Kingston. He wasn't there, although we were invited, but it was good fun, but he wasn't
Well,
there.
if you can remember a Ronnie Wood party, Mark, you weren't there. Martha, what about you?
Well, a slightly less happy occasion for an encounter with a rock star, but I met Mick Fleetwood actually at his home in Maui in Hawaii. It was just in the aftermath of those devastating wildfires there. And we went to meet him in this incredible house he has in the hills in Maui, which overlooks the ocean. And he greeted me at the door in true rock star style. That's to say that he had no top on. And his beer belly hanging out.
Fantastic. Listen, if you'll bear with me, can I tell you my Cher story?
Oh my goodness me.
Go on then.
I can see our producer shaking her head now. Go on, James. This will get cut for sure.
Yeah, well, listen, in my Scotland days, my colleague Rona Dougal, she did a piece about a Scottish couple who'd been to Kenya, went to this out-of-the-way neighbourhood and wanted to raise money for an orphanage. Lying on a hospital bed in Germany was Cher, the singer. She'd seen the piece on Sky News and wanted to raise funds for this orphanage. So I remember the night in my kitchen, the phone goes, and I pick it up, and the voice at the other end is unmistakably the rock goddess. "Hello, Mr. Matthews?" And I said, "Hello, Cher." So there you go. We'll be back next Friday, as usual, and then we're staying. We'll be taking over the Sky News daily feed for the whole week of the US election, bringing you the last-minute campaigning from both sides, the drama of election night itself, and whatever comes next. Look forward to seeing you then.